Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So previously we attempted to answer the question, how many doctors have there been? And now we're going to try and answer a similar question, how many masters have there been? And just like how the amount of doctors is convoluted, so is the number of masters. Oh, such fun. Now we don't actually know much about most of the Master's early incarnations. We don't know much about the Master's first incarnation apart from that he attended the academy with a young First Doctor, with the two of them initially being best friends. The two of them would eventually go their separate ways, however, due to them developing completely different attitudes and views to each other. The Master developed a lust for power whilst the Doctor gained an empathy for all forms of life. Not too long after the Doctor had left Gallifrey in his TARDIS, the Master chose to do the same. But that's about all we know about the first Master. We don't really know what exactly he looks like beyond him having dark hair when he was a child, and no, I'm not including the adult version using some Big Finish audios as, well, the actor who plays him doesn't seem to like people choosing to be happy and themselves, and his Master is pretty generic and forgettable anyway, in my honest opinion. Not much is known about the Master's 2nd to 11th incarnations either. I might do a video at some point of me fan casting different actors as them, if any of you would be interested in that. We know that according to the short story Dismemberment in the Missy Chronicles book, the second Master visited the Scoundrels Club shortly after regenerating from his first self. The Master would then subsequently revisit the club every time they regenerated into a new incarnation. Missy would later kill everyone at the club after they had chucked her out for being a woman. Some fans believe that the War Chief from the 1969 story The War Games is an incarnation of the Master. Some of the Target novels even basically go along with this. According to them, there was only one other Time Lord apart from the Doctor who stole a TARDIS before the Third Doctor's exile to Earth. The other was the War Chief, who after the end of the War Games regenerated and apparently started going by the name of the Master. I must admit, whilst my opinions on this do go back and forth a lot, I would say that, at this moment in time at least, I do kind of agree with this idea. But then again, some Virgin New Adventures contradict this and make the War Chief out to be a separate renegade Time Lord, so who knows. Anyway, we next come to the Master, as played by Roger Delgado, who I personally believe is the Master's 12th incarnation. This Master would mainly fight against the Third Doctor during the latter's exile to 20th century Earth. Eventually this Master would regenerate into his next incarnation in the Doctor Who magazine comic story Doorway to Hell, after he had been defeated by the 12th Doctor. The 13th Master would then become severely burned by one of his future selves, specifically the 15th Master. After some Freaky Friday-esque shenanigans ensued with both incarnations, the 7th Doctor was able to erase both of their memories. The 13th, or Crispy Master, was then collected by another Time Lord called Goth, who took him back to Gallifrey. This is where we find the Crispy Master in A Deadly Assassin. He would fight against mainly the 4th Doctor, with several other of his schemes always being foiled by the latter. Eventually, after being stranded on the planet Traken, the Master stole the body of an inhabitant called Tremas, who was the father of one of the Doctor's future companions, Nyssa. This didn't count as an actual regeneration, of course. After causing the 4th Doctor to regenerate into the 5th, this Tremas Master was defeated by the 5th, 6th and 7th Doctors on a number of occasions. He was eventually infected with the cheetah virus during the 1989 TV story Survival. What happened to him after this is a bit tricky to say. It really depends on what you accept as canon. According to the Big Finish audio, Dust Breeding, he was stripped of his stolen body by the Warp Core and reverted to his decaying form. Alternatively, according to Virgin New Adventures book First Frontier, the Tremas Master was stranded on Earth in 1957 without his TARDIS. After making a deal with the Zun Confederacy, the Master was cured of the cheetah virus by Zun nanites. This also gave him a new regeneration cycle and restructured his Trakenite DNA into Time Lord's DNA. He was then shot by Ace and regenerated into his next incarnation, the 14th Master. Personally, I like to believe that both of these took place somehow, with Dust Breeding perhaps taking place before First Frontier or something. Whichever one of these you choose to count, he was seemingly in another body, either his own or another stolen one, by the time he was put on trial and exterminated by the Daleks in the events leading into the 1996 TV movie. He survived in the form of a death worm morphant, however, and then stole the body of an American ambulance driver, Bruce, This Bruce Master was then defeated by the newly regenerated 8th Doctor and trapped inside the Eye of Harmony inside the latter's TARDIS. He eventually managed to escape into the Time Vortex, however. After some encounters with River Song, the 8th Doctor and Vienna Salvatore, as well as some of his own future selves, he was drawn back into the Time Vortex. According to the DWM comic story called The Glorious Dead, he was then rescued by the controller of the Glory, Esterath. He then took the form of a recently deceased vagrant in Brixton in the early 21st century. Esterath tricked him into thinking that he would be his successor, and this Vagrant Master inadvertently created the events that led the Doctor's Cyberman companion Croton to become the real next controller of the Glory. He was then once again trapped in the Eye of Harmony, but he managed to escape yet again by influencing the dreams of Edward Granger. He then went through several stolen bodies before eventually reverting to his decayed form. The Ravenous then feasted on him, and his body was left on the planet Parak. He was resurrected by his Bruce, War and Missy selves and was given a new body and regenerative cycle. This new body was the 15th Master, as played by Alex McQueen. This 15th, or Bald Master, fought against the 7th and 8th Doctors before eventually regenerating into his next self in currently unknown circumstances. This new incarnation was the 16th, or War Master. The War Master obviously became involved in the Time War, sometimes being recruited by the Time Lords to go on various missions for their war effort. He would later stop doing their bidding, however, and continue his usual chaos-causing ways. In an aborted timeline, the War Master regenerated into the body of a small child. This Child Master made a deal with the War Doctor, and the two became allies. This is all later undone by a paradox caused by a chronal tumour, causing the Child Master to retro-regenerate back into the War Master. The War Master eventually grew scared and tired of the Time War's endless fighting and fled to the end of time. He sent his TARDIS back to Gallifrey without him and used a chameleon arch to turn himself into a human baby. This baby would go on to become Professor Yana. Yana would work on the Utopia project, attempting to help the human race stave off its impending doom. But after meeting the 10th Doctor Martha and Captain Jack Harkness and overhearing their conversations about time travel, Daleks and regeneration, his true identity slowly managed to reassert itself. Martha also then noticed that the fob watch Yana had was identical to one that the 10th Doctor had used to turn himself human, which inadvertently drew Yana's attention to it, breaking its perception filter. Hearing the voices of some of his real self's incarnations, Yana opens the fob watch and turned back into the War Master. The War Master would then get shot by Chanfo after he attempted to sabotage the Utopia project. He regenerated into his next self, the 17th, or Saxon Master. He stole Doctor's TARDIS and turned it into a paradox machine. The Saxon Master adopted the alias of Harold Saxon and then became Prime Minister of the UK. He allied himself with the Toclophane, the vicious cyborg remnants of the humans who had never found Utopia. The Toclophane's subsequent invasion of the Earth was stopped by the 10th Doctor Martha and Jack, with the Saxon Master dying after being shot by his human wife Lucy. But he was able to come back from the dead due to the actions of his disciples. They used his ring and a biometric imprint taken from Lucy. Lucy interrupted the Saxon Master's resurrection though, and hurled a potion of death at him. This left him in a state of constant depletion, fluctuating between fleshy and skeletal states. He used the immortality gates to transform every human being on Earth into himself, calling them the Master Race. Once the Time Lords attempted to come back into the universe, with Gallifrey trying to take Earth's place, Rassilon turned every human back to normal, with the Saxon Master attacking him when he learnt that the Time Lords had caused his insanity. They both disappeared as Gallifrey faded back into the Time War. Back on Gallifrey, the Saxon Master choked Rassilon with several white point stars, causing the latter to regenerate. The Time Lords cured his insanity, with him then escaping the planet in his TARDIS. He then met his next incarnation Missy on a Mondasian colony ship, as well as the 12th Doctor, Bill and Nardole. Posing as Razor, the Saxon Master lets Bill be converted into a Cyberman before teaming up with his future self to gloat about Bill's fate to the Doctor. The two Masters would ultimately turn on each other, however, when Missy stated that she planned on standing with the Doctor. Declaring that he would never stand with the Doctor, he shot Missy in the back with his laser screwdriver. The Master then left in a lift to the bottom of the colony ship, laughing all the way. He was able to make his way back to his TARDIS before starting to regenerate, with Missy having stabbed him in the back before he had returned the favour. She had done it in such a way that he would still have enough time to get back to his TARDIS. The Saxon Master then regenerated into his next incarnation, the 18th Master, or Missy. Missy would go on to initially fight against the younger 12th Doctor, but always with the aim of getting her former best friend back. She was eventually put on trial on an unnamed planet, with the 12th Doctor being summoned to carry out her sentence. Instead of letting the execution machine kill Missy, the Doctor sabotaged it so that it would knock her unconscious instead. He then swore an oath to guard her for 1,000 years, getting Nardole to place her inside a quantum fold chamber. The Doctor and Nardole then took the vault to St. Luke's University, where they continued to guard it for several decades. While she was in the vault, Missy slowly began to express deep regret for all her past actions and the amount of people she'd killed. The 12th Doctor was pleased that Missy was making good progress with her redemption. Nardole eventually let her out to help him return the TARDIS to Mars in the year 1881. The Doctor was shocked to see Missy piloting his TARDIS, but eventually decided that she was worth trusting, letting her do maintenance work on the TARDIS before testing her goodness by sending her along with Bill and Nardole to answer a distress signal. The signal turned out to come from that aforementioned Mondasian colony ship. Of course, after meeting her previous self, the Saxon Master, Missy would eventually get shot in the back by him after she said she was going to stand with the Doctor to defeat the Cybermen. While the Saxon Master had shot her with a full blast with the intention of stopping her from regenerating, Missy was able to create an Elysian field to kickstart a new regeneration cycle. The process destroyed her body though, with just a copy of her consciousness left. This then regenerated into a distillation of all her goodness and became her next incarnation, the 19th Master, aka the Lumiat. The Lumiat then tried to do some good in the universe, inspired by the Doctor, but she was eventually mortally wounded by her previous self Missy after the two of them had met and went on several trips with each other, with the Lumiats trying to act as a good influence on Missy. The Lumiats then regenerated into her next incarnation, the 20th or Spy Master. The Spy Master returns to his old dark and evil ways and tries to hack into the Matrix on Gallifrey, but after getting lost in it he stumbled upon the truth of the Timeless Child. Furious at finding out the child was in fact the Doctor, he killed all the Time Lords and ravaged the planet, leaving the Citadel in flames and ruins. He then teamed up with Daniel Barton and the Kasavin to turn the human race into hard drives, but this plan was foiled by the 13th Doctor Yaz, Ryan and Graham. The Spy Master later returned, however, and revealed the truth of the Timeless Child to the 13th Doctor. He then offered himself to the Cyberium, the battle AI of the Cybermen, after killing Ashad, the lone Cyberman, with his tissue compression eliminator. Using the bodies of all the Time Lords he'd killed, he then created the Cybermasters, a race of Cybermen who were capable of regenerating. He was defeated by Ko-Shamas, however, who detonated the Death Particle, but the Spy Master managed to escape before detonation in a TARDIS along with his Cybermasters. He then devised a plan to force the 13th Doctor into regenerating into him. He then plans to tarnish the Doctor's name by causing lots of destruction throughout the universe, but was stopped by Yaz Vinder and a holographic interface of the Doctor. They used the Cybermaster's combined regenerative energy to force the Master to degenerate back into the 13th Doctor. Back in his own body again and feeling very weak, the Master transported back into his TARDIS and managed to use his TCE to redirect the Quarunx's energy beam to strike the Doctor. This eventually caused the 13th Doctor to regenerate into the 14th, with the Spy Master collapsing to the floor as the Quarunx destroyed the planet around him. Now, if you thought that was a lot of Masters, well, don't you worry, that was just the main ones. There was also an unspecified incarnation of the Master that tried to trick King Arthur into believing that Mordred was dead, so that Mordred would grow up and be able to kill Arthur at the Battle of Camlan. This Master posed as Merlin during this before fleeing when he saw the 5th Doctor and Tegan arrive in the TARDIS. He later tried to take over the UK using radio waves in 20th century London, but the 6th Doctor and Perry defeated him. And there were some from alternate universes too. One was played by Jonathan Pryce in the 1999 comic relief spoof called The Curse of Fatal Death. Another existed in the same Unbound universe as David Warner's alternate third Doctor and was voiced by Mark Gatiss in some Big Finish audios. He'd regenerated from what was intended to be an alternate version of the Roger Delgado or 12th Master. There was also another seemingly alternate Master who travelled with Richard E. Grant's Shauka Doctor in an android form that was stuck in the Doctor's TARDIS, and just like the War Master, this Shauka Master was voiced by Derek Jacobi. An alternate form of the Master known as Koshi also existed in the Inferno Earth timeline, along with an alternate evil Doctor known as a Leader that I forgot to mention in my How Many Doctors video. There was also an alternate Master in the Warriors timeline, and just like the 13th Master, this alternate Master was voiced by Jeffrey Beavers in the Unbound Doctor of War Big Finish audios. And as far as I'm aware, that's just about every single incarnation of the Master from both the main and parallel universes. I hope that wasn't all too much information for you all, and that it wasn't too convoluted or confusing. There have been a total of at least 27 incarnations of the Master, or that's how many I was able to mention in this video anyway. That's compared to the 55-ish Doctors that I mentioned in my How Many Doctors video, or 56 if we include the Leader Doctor that I mentioned earlier on in this video. So I think it's fair to say that both the Doctor and the Master have had quite a lot of lives, haven't they? Of course, as always with these things, the amount of Masters is really up to whatever you count as canon. You could try to make everything, or mostly everything at least, work together in some shape or form, just like me, or an entirely different approach altogether. Anyway, so thanks for watching, hope you liked it and that I was at least semi-able to get this video to make some kind of sense. Please don't forget to press that subscribe button below, as well as press the bell icon at the side of it, so that you'll be notified of when all my new videos come out. This channel currently has 710 subscribers as the time of writing and recording this video. But once we get 750, then I'll rank every single season of the TV show from 1963 to the present. Also, please rate and comment below your thoughts on all of this. Who's your favourite Master, and did I miss any that you can think of? And I shall see you all in another video. So, until next time, bye bye!